Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, and other non binary folks, welcome. Good evening. This is the Live at 5 from Kyiv. I'm your host, Peter Alexievich, and we are live both on the Tube of Views and on the Tickety Talk. Hey, Michael. Hey, Chris. I had a request to record the lives, which I can't really do on TikTok. And so I'm going to try this approach and see that they go up on YouTube afterward. How we doing? Am I coming in okay? Hey, Anthony, Tommy, Tom. Hey, Breed. Mad Mike. Hey, Bernard. I'm plugging along, pal. How you doing? Hey, Jake. How you living, man? Lot of the Patreon stuff. Привет, Peter. Привit. Dobro вечер. Hey, Bobby. Hey, Cheyenne. How you living? Who's that? Nightshade. How you doing, Nightshade? Hey, Jeff. I can thank Cartvelian for that. He was the one that hit me up on that, but we'll talk about that in a second. There is a lot of good news. There is a lot of good news, guys. You're not wrong. Oh, pardon me. So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. It is Monday, November the 6th, day 621 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. And since we last talked on Friday, the Russian losses, according to the Ukrainian MOD, look like this: 23 tanks, 57 armored vehicles, and a whopping 61 artillery pieces. I do want to highlight for everybody, I am live on YouTube and on Tickety Talk. And so I'm going to start recording these on YouTube, and they will be available on YouTube afterward if you miss a live. We're going to try that for a little bit here. Now, tonight's top story is one that you are unlikely to see anywhere else. I'll be very interested to know if anybody has heard about this. But video has surfaced of Ukrainian forces in Sudan hunting down Wagner troops. As many of you know, about 2 months ago, I did a piece on Ukrainians apparently in Sudan targeting Wagner troops. Well, it looks like they are at it again. And while the Ukrainian MOD remains silent on this subject, there are a couple of pointers, there are a couple of facts that point to the fact that that's what's going on. And that what we're seeing in these videos of what are clearly Ukrainian troops hunting down Wagnerites in Sudan are legitimate, because a couple of facts have surfaced about 2 months ago now. It turns out that the president of Sudan met with Zelensky in the Shannon airport in Ireland. The two were both in Ireland for some reason. The details are sketchy, but they were there at the same time. Wagner's been in Sudan for a while. In 2019, Wagner was responsible for the coup against the legitimate government of Sudan and their so-called rapid response forces, which are nothing but a bunch of Sudanese terrorists who are bent on exploiting the country and its people to line their own pockets, because those are the kind of people that ally with Wagner, who turn to Wagner. The Rapid Response Force has been funded, has been armed by Russia through the Wagner PMC. And make no mistake, there's no distinction between the Russian government and the Wagner PMC. And so the fact that the Russians are arming these rebels in Sudan and that they are making war against the legitimate government of Sudan should be of concern to all of us. And it appears that the Ukrainians are keeping their word. Do you remember what Zelensky said? Do you remember that Zelensky said the words, "They can run, but they can't hide"? The war criminals of the Wagner PMC the armed forces of Ukraine will reach out and find the war criminals of the Wagner PMC wherever they try to hide on the face of this earth. And so apparently some agreement was come to between the Sudanese government and the Ukrainian government, and Ukrainian special forces are in Sudan hunting Wagnerites. That's what appears to be going on, guys. It's a stunning development that puts Ukraine and the professionalism of Ukrainian armed forces on the world stage in the kind of urban warfare, the kind of covert operation that we normally associate only with the very best of American covert operations, right? The Ukrainians are out there doing it today while they fight this battle at home. It's remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And so that's going on in Africa today, right now, even as we speak. Now, in the United States, and this, I just want to take a second here and address my fellow Americans and anybody that's interested in Ukraine, because what happens in the United States matters here in Ukraine, right? We got this Tommy Tuberville, Tuberville, sorry, Waka Flocka, Tuberville, who has been holding up American military promotions for 9 months now. Now, look at this traitorous son of a bitch is doing this exclusively for his own self-interest, to grab headlines, to demonstrate to the very worst of his base that he is out there trying to impose theocratic rule on the United States of America. He has single-handedly manipulated Senate rules in order to hold up these military promotions. It can't be allowed. And the pressure is on him right now. What we need to do as Americans is ratchet that pressure up on the rest of the Senate. If you haven't gotten the latest email message template for your congressperson and the White House regarding Tommy Tuberville and what we need to do to unseat him, please go to the Discord server, get the copy, message me, or hit Vanetta up in the comments there, and we'll get you the email message template so that you can send it to your senators, and we can all apply the pressure that's needed so that this roadblock, this obstructionism that's like a poison, a cancer in American government, we can put a stop to it, right? Let's do it, please. And don't just get the templates for yourself. Get 10 friends to send them to, and ask them to get 10 friends to send them. So if you haven't gotten those Tuberville templates from us, please hit somebody up on the team here and get those templates out. I want to thank Eli. Eli is the sponsor of tonight's live. I don't know if she's in here or not, but Eli, thank you so much for sponsoring tonight's live. You are the best. Last night, the Russians sent 20 Shahed drones of the 131, 136 class. 15 of them were shot down, as well as one X-59 cruise missile was also shot down. In a separate missile attack, missiles apparently got through to Odessa, striking the art museum and causing chaos. Though at the time of this reporting, I am unaware of any casualties in those attacks. Just damage to World Heritage sites. That's all. That's all. I mean, there's only, 5,000 years of history of people living in Ukraine here to protect. Of course, history doesn't begin for the Russians until the Russians show up. An aide to General Zaluzhny, sorry, was killed by a grenade that was hidden inside a gift bag that was sent home with him for his birthday. This aide, Major Chastikov, was 39 years old. His 13-year-old son was badly injured in the attack and is currently hospitalized. His status is unknown. Major Chastikov is survived by his wife and 4 children, and according to General Zaluzhny, has been a rock for him throughout this conflict. Our deepest sympathies go out to the family at this tragic time. It is amazing to me that within 96 hours of General Zaluzhny's interview and essay being published, in which he says that we need a new technological breakthrough if we are to avoid a stalemate in this conflict. It is miraculous to me that just 96 hours after his statement that we need a technological breakthrough, we see ferries ferrying heavy equipment across the Dnipro in Kherson, which is great news for everybody, right? It looks like that's more than a diversion down there now. That's an expanding bridgehead supported with armor. That changes things. Less than 96 hours after that article appeared and that interview appeared, we get video footage disable over 300 first-person view drones of the Russians. The drones are falling out of the sky through some electronic warfare means we are unaware of. Now, this is important, and it's fascinating to me because normally with these drones, if the signal to the operator is interrupted, the drone is supposed to return to base. That's what's supposed to happen. But that is not what is happening. Somehow the Ukrainians are knocking these things out of the sky by jamming them, by interrupting those signals, or they're forcing them to land right where they are. If this is true, and we have every reason to believe that it is, because there's a couple hours of video footage from the Russian drones that have been captured in this fashion, the possibilities are amazing for jamming and downing drones and blinding the Russians in the sky. Right now, what did Zaluzhny say in his essay and in his interview? That the big problem is that we can see what they're doing and they can see what we're doing. Well, not if their drones keep falling out of the sky, they can't. It's good shit. Further to that, we know that the North Korean shells have arrived, right? I'm nobody. I'm just a guy who goes on the internet to find shit out. And I've seen satellite pictures of those cargo ships dropping the cargo containers in Vladivostok. I've seen the satellite photos of the railway yard outside of Krasnodar where those same containers are being unloaded. I know that the North Korean shells are here and that they're at the front from the way that the Russian shelling has skyrocketed in the last week. In the last week, we've seen more Russian shelling than we did in the last 2 months. A record number of 118 Ukrainian settlements were targeted for heavy shelling over the last 3 days. It's endless. Now, we got the Sadove attack, right, where that ammo dump went up 800 feet in the sky, fireball burned for 24 hours before it finally cooked off. Across the Novokakhovka Reservoir, I apologize, the name of the town escapes me just now, but in the Zaporizhia direction near the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, just across from Nikolaev, another ammo dump was hit last night. From miles away, the sky was lit up in every conceivable frequency of light. The video is amazing. You would think that there was a rave just over the hill. And that is apparently still burning. So the Ukrainians know where the ammo depots are, and they are effectively targeting them. Even when they are a mere 4 miles from the Russian border, as deep inside of Russian-held territory as you could get. There is nowhere inside of the traditional boundaries of the country of Ukraine where the Russians and their equipment are safe. That does not exist, as evidenced by the bombing of the Kerch warship Askold in Kerch Harbor, just right at the mouth of where the bridge is. Now, if the Ukrainians can hit that ship the way that they did with those Scalp missiles and absolutely turn it into a starter kit for a coral reef, which is all that it is now, then they can take that bridge out anytime they want. That's the reality of the situation in Ukraine. They cannot hide. They cannot hide here. If you are a Russian in Crimea, you should get out now while you can, while the bridge is still up. Because when the Ukrainians are ready, they're going to take it down, and then there will be no escape. Russian troops in Georgia, Russian troops in Georgia on the border of the occupied territories have killed a Georgian national and detained another illegally. This is part of the Russian occupation of Georgia. The Russians currently control 20% of the country. They've held it since 2008. Today, something happened. We don't have the details, but a Russian national was executed at the border. And further to this, another was detained. The State Security Services, the SUS of Georgia, are investigating the matter and are talking to their Russian counterparts about what happened, and we hope that details will be forthcoming. But it is important to remember that before Russia invaded Ukraine, they invaded Georgia. Before Russia tried to steal 20% of Ukraine, they stole 20% of Georgia. And they've still got it. And the Georgians would like it back. I think I saw a Kartvelian roller in here. And if he's here, guys, if you're interested in the ongoing situation in Georgia, I urge you to follow Kartvelian, who is the one who sent me the initial report of the attack on the Georgian nationals at the border there. The 128th Separate Mountain Assault Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces has confirmed that 19 soldiers were killed on November 3rd in a Russian missile attack. And they have confirmed that this happened during an awards ceremony to mark Artillery Day. I think we can all agree that our deepest sympathies and respect go out to the families of these folks. And it's not my place to say what happened. We don't know what happened. But there have been questions raised about the appropriateness of having an outdoor gathering, a ceremony like that close to the front line. It doesn't look good for the Ukrainian armed forces. and for those that organized it and thought it was such a good idea, especially not in light of how often we have criticized and ridiculed the Russians for doing the exact same kind of thing. And so, guys, that's really it for me for today. That's all that I have in the news, but I'm happy to take questions and move to the Q&A portion of things. I want to thank Eli, who's the sponsor of tonight's live. I want to thank uh, Cheyenne, of course, as always, and Vanetta and Magic and Lars and John Williams and the rest of the team that makes these things possible. I want to thank everybody who has shared the live, who has liked the live, and who has contributed questions to the live. And if you like what I do and want to support it, please consider joining the Patreon, as so many of the people here have. I could really use the help. Okay, Dino, how you doing, Dino? Thank you, Eli. So, guys, it's a little bit hard for me to see the chat, but I will do what I can. If you got any questions, chat them in now. If I don't answer your question, it's because it scrolled away and I missed it. So please ask it again. Who's got questions? For those of you that were on the live the other night when the air raid sirens went off, everything was fine here in town. The Ukrainian armed forces do a great job, as you know, and territorial defense shot everything down. Did you know the ship destroyed has Russia's best ship-mounted air defense system? Cardfellian, of course I believed in Santa Claus when I was a child. I still believe in Santa. Did I know that the ship destroyed has Russia's best ship-mounted air defense system? Cannonball, you're right. No, I did not know that. I did know that it was the latest warship that they had built, and purportedly one of the best, coming in at a price tag of $35 million. But that is all I knew about it. It doesn't anymore. What are my feelings on Russia making it through the winter? I would not want to be a Russian in Crimea this winter. I don't think the Kerch Bridge is going to be up at Christmas. I really don't. And when we look at the progress that's being made by the Ukrainians in Kherson, there's every reason to believe that getting to the Arabat Spit is not going to be an option either. And so if Crimea comes under siege this winter, as I fully expect it to, it's going to be the kind of winter where people tell stories of surviving eating rats, maybe the neighbors. You're not going to want to be there. Hey, Ted. Hey, Dino. Prigozhin's son is supposed to be the new Wagner commander. He is 25 years old. And did you see the 15-year-old Chechen boy, the son of Kadyrov? He's now in charge of some forces in Chechnya. 15 years old. Unreal. The Russians are preparing, Estebas, the Russians are preparing for a large next wave attack on Avdiivka. There are reports of as many as 3,000 new reservists moved into the area and an accumulation of men and equipment getting ready for that attack. Yes. Yeah, Lars, it's like trying to sweep the ocean back with a broom, man. The TikTok army. That's what it is, brother. The TikTok army. This thing about the Ukrainian electronic warfare against the drones is fascinating to me. Really, Steve? I didn't know that. Steve is saying that the Shahed 136 is made in Russia now. Fascinating. Do you feel there might have been a strategic advantage to delaying the destruction of the Kerch Bridge? I do, Steve-O. I think that it's perfectly within the Ukrainians' ability to destroy the Kerch Bridge whenever they want. And I think that they haven't destroyed it yet because they have a reason to keep it open. And now, what that reason is, I would assume it's to let people escape, get as many Russians out of there as can get out of there. That would be my guess. But I don't know for sure that that's the case. You think there's any one weapon that would change the trajectory of the war in Ukraine? Russell, as far as I know, there's no such thing as a silver bullet, but instead, you have to look at things like the force multiplying effects of ATACMS that change Russian behavior, right? That drive them to move those helicopters into Russian territory. Now it's a 415-kilometer round trip to the front line. That's much harder. Make it hard for them. Impede their ability to wage this war. Clay Fry. Russian blunder of the week is their nuclear missile tests. Did you see they did a nuclear missile test? The two rockets that they launched, one got up to an altitude, I think, of close to 15,000 feet before it exploded. Just exploded. And then the other one went off course and landed someplace it damn well shouldn't have. So Russian blunder of the week is they keep trying to be scientists when they're barbarians. They're ogres, as we witnessed with the lunar landing module. You know? Did I see a video you made, senior Republicans urging Biden to provide long-range ATACMS? Yes, Jeff, you did. Senior Republicans are urging Biden to provide long-range ATACMS. And Vanetta, if I'm not mistaken, we have a letter to the president doing the same, do we not? And it's up on, I think it should be up on the Discord server. All their engineers have left. Hey, Maddie Wright. The ATACMS that they have now are the cluster munitions with 164-kilometer range, and we're asking for long-range unit warhead types and more of them, for crying out loud. We've got 3,700 in inventory. We can afford to spare them right now, especially because we got an order in with Raytheon for replacements for next year. So come on. The current nuke stockpiles has not had proper maintenance since the 80s. Ted, you are so right, pal. Do you know what the Russians have a nuclear arsenal a little bit bigger than ours. Do you know for every dollar that they spend on maintenance, how much we spend on maintenance? For every dollar that the Russians spend on maintenance of their nuclear stockpile, how many dollars does the United States spend? Does anybody know the answer to that question? Maddie Wright says no. Dino guesses 20. Joe Blakely does not know. Ted does not know offhand. Minimum 3 times more. How come the Norwegian gets the closest? How come the Norwegian gets the closest? Lars, it's 5-1. It's 5-1. So now look, the Russians have a nuclear stockpile almost, and then, right, William, or Willow, I'm sorry, Willow. And right, Willow, how much of it gets stolen then? Now, nuclear weapons are not are it's not a Craig 3040, you know? It's not a it's not a simple piece of equipment. It's a complex, delicate piece of the most advanced science on earth is what it is. It's not the kind of thing you can leave in a silo unattended for 30 years and then think it's going to fucking work when you want it. That's insanity of the first order. And right now, the Russian budget has them spending 1/5 the maintenance cost on their nuclear stockpile that we spend on ours. That assumes that nobody's been in there, tearing the guts out to sell on the secondary market or pulling out the enriched uranium to sell to the North Koreans or whatever, right? What other kind of graft and corruption we can expect from the Russians. That's assuming that none of that is happening. There's no way their stockpile works the way ours works. Everything that we have that we say works. I promise you. With them, who's to say? They try to fire off those nukes, half of them probably wouldn't make it out of the silos. The other half of what got out of the silos won't follow the trajectory to their targets. They're going to go off course. That leaves maybe 1 in 4 working, maybe, of those deployed. Let's see, what does this say? To where it was launched from, kind of like the problem American submarines had in World War II. Okay. Yeah. Dino, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Oh, hey, Rational Squirrel, whose name I love, Rational Squirrel. Thanks for joining the Patreon. I really appreciate it. It was great to see you in there. The Tsar Bomba. Snap back to the alchemy. Hope before tragedy. Showed with bold math that we broke the whole atom. We choked controlled action with poles of cold cadmium. Coat to go capture neutrons and slow fracture. We postponed that, and we chose to go capture. No, we chose to go. Fuck. I forget. I used to do particle physics raps. Yeah. Hey, Tony Takeri. Hey, I just saw Tony. Tony and I hooked up here in Kyiv. He bought me a beer for my birthday. It's great hanging out with you, pal. On his way. Where were you coming back from? Kramatorsk, right, pal? He showed me video of the roads out there. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Kramatorsk. This guy's got a hell of a van, boy. Jam full of stuff for folks. Thanks, PH. Have a good night. Maximum respect. Just one day at a time, Cartvellian. George is going to wiggle out from under the thumb of Moscow. There's no doubt about it. And when they do, what's going to happen is a reunification with the occupied territories. Just like here in Ukraine, we're going to see a reunification of the occupied territories and go back to the 1991 borders. That's what's going to happen. All Putin has left is threats. I think you're right. I don't think he dare fire off an actual nuke, not just because of the political will that it would take to do that, not just because he knows what the consequences would be, but also because he cannot know what would happen if he did. Just the failure of these tests should be enough to convince any kind of rational person that to use a live nuke is insanity. Do I think Putin died? I don't know. However, it is worth mentioning that he has not been seen now in 14 days, not since that report of the heart attack first circulated. He has not been seen in public in 14. If I'm not mistaken, today was day 14. No, Nightshade, there's no way Russia could open up another front anywhere in the world. If Georgia were to attack Ukraine, I don't know what would happen. If Georgia were to attack Russia or make a move to recapture its territories, I think if they went in with some gusto, they'd have their territory back in no time at all. That's what I would prefer, Anthony. Anthony Tommy Tom hits it on the head. That's what we all should want to see. We should all want to see Putin in The Hague. It's exactly right. Tried for war crimes. I agree. You know, the problem, of course, in Georgia, as Cartvellian is pointing out, is that the government is currently pro-Russian. But one election would change that. Lukashenko is just glad that all the Russian army is out of his country. Now, that's very telling, isn't it? The Russians kept a lot of troops up in Belarus to kind of threaten the Ukrainians from the north that they might invade. But now we know that all of the Wagnerites are out of Belarus and all of the Russian regular forces are out of Belarus. That's very telling. Where are the reserves coming from in Ukraine right now? I think they're coming from Belarus. That's what I think is happening. Okay. Guys, if anybody's got any last questions, chat them in, please. I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to go ahead and end the YouTube stream. Hey, Richard. Hey, Lady Kush. I'm sorry you guys are just getting here. I'm just wrapping it up. The big news today, in my opinion, is that the Ukrainian special forces are operating